This episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy was recorded and produced during the 2023 WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes. Without the labor of the writers and actors currently on strike, the stories being covered here wouldn't exist. Thank you, and enjoy this episode of In a Galaxy. Hello there.
Hello there.
Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. I'm Eli.
I'm Jacob.
And today we are with you for episode 108 of Star Wars in a Galaxy. Today we're wrapping this puppy up. We are wrapping it up. We are finishing season 2 of Star Wars: The Bad Batch. It's one of the first times, I think, Jacob, I just realized this. I'm gonna check exactly when. It's gonna be one of the first times we're not covering a Star Wars animated television show in a long time.
Oh yeah. This has been. I like to joke that sometimes our show feels more like Star Wars in a Clone Wars, and
Yeah.
this almost feels like an extension of that. So this is a bittersweet recording. We really, so much of what our show is and what we do is very informed by the Clone Wars and our experience, I think, watching that show especially, and this show as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit bittersweet but exciting.
Oh,
Just
extremely
as
excited.
it was exciting to leave the Clone Wars behind, I think we're not as much, but I'm definitely going like a little stir crazy for some things other than animation.
Absolutely. So if we're counting Gendy Clone Wars and droids in that, which I would, because they're both animated television, we've been doing this nonstop for 3 years, basically.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. Wow.
Yeah.
We've had some intermittent breaks. We've a few movies in there, a little bit of some video games.
Sith we did while watching TCW anyway.
That's true. So that was intermingled, which was
so I
really
counted
fun.
that as still doing it because we were still doing it. Even if we don't count Gendy, though, we've still been doing it for a little less than 3 years. We've been doing animation since like fall 2020. So yeah, we've been doing it a long time, but we're excited to get to the end. But we're excited to talk about these 2 episodes. We're excited to talk about Tipping Point, the Summit, and Plan 99.
Three absolutely banger episodes, if I may say so.
Firestorms of an episode. Like, goddamn. And
these were something else.
Yeah,
let's do it. All right. So, in Tipping Point, we open on the planet of Balmora, where we see a group of clone prisoners being loaded onto a Gozanti-class Imperial transport ship. However, as they are leaving the planet, they are attacked by a ship full of clones, including Echo, and Rex is there too, right?
Yeah, Rex. Yeah, Rex is leaving.
Echo and Rex and some clones, and they attack, and Gregor. Good catch. They attack the ship, and they rescue the clone prisoners, leaving the ship behind, and they escape. Meanwhile, over on Wayland, on Mount Tantus, we have HEMLOCK once again trying to, or not once again, I guess this time, HEMLOCK now has Crosshair as his prisoner, and he's trying to get information out of Crosshair. So he tortures Crosshair. He says he wants Crosshair to reveal the location or to help him find Omega, and Crosshair refuses pretty much. And Crosshair actually takes advantage of a lapse of attention to actually overpower the stormtroopers in his cell and escape. However, he escapes, and he sends a transmission to the Bad Batch. He says, Plan 88, they're coming after you.
The Seeker
plan. So basically telling the Bad Batch they're after you. They're after you. And however, he is then subdued by poison gas and is recaptured. He is recaptured by Hemlock. And then we cut to Pabu. Over on Pabu, we have Tech and Omega. They're just chilling out, doing some flying lessons. Wrecker's doing some fishing. Hunter's doing some brooding and more brooding as he usually does.
Get broody over here.
Yeah, Hunter, he does some brooding. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. He's brooding though. He's brooding all right. Hunter's brooding. They're all having a good time. And they're reunited with Echo. Echo comes back with the ship. Echo needs help. Echo needs the Bad Batch's help to decrypt the information that he got from the ship, because there was encrypted information to try and figure out where the clones go. They do eventually decrypt that information, revealing that the clones, the transferred prisoner clones, are being taken to Wayland and Mount Tantus. They're being taken to Dr. Hemlock and the Advanced Science Division, where they're doing some sort of sinister stuff to the clones that we don't really know. So Echo decides to mount up with the core Bad Batch once again. Then we cut back to Mount Tantus, where Hemlock has recaptured Crosshair and is torturing him some more, just for good measure.
In the summit, they found out that Hemlock is heading to an Imperial summit hosted by Wilhelm Tarkin on his home world of Eriadu, and Tech and Fee have a final little awkward goodbye, and they wave goodbye to Pabu before they set off for Eriadu, who is a treacherous planet, much like its home planet hero of Tarkin, and they have to ride a railing system to get to Tarkin's fortress where the summit is being held. At the summit, we see many Imperial officers, including Royce Hemlock, and of course Wilhelm Tarkin, Herstrom Modi, Barton Coburn, and indeed the director of Advanced Weapons Research, Orson Krennic, who's working on something called Project Stardust, which we'll get to. They managed to take the rail system over, and they blast their way in, moving covertly to try and attach the jam tracker to Hemlock's ship so they can try and find out where Crosshair is. And things are going pretty well until they start noticing some deactivated cameras and some things like somebody else was there, and oh my god, that's not a TK trooper, that's Saw Gerrera. Apparently Saw and the Partisans were planning on blowing up the summit and taking down Tarkin and several high caliber leaders like Hemlock and Krennic, and the Bad Batch managed to get their forces out of there, but Stahl still blows up the base. And while they're on the monorail, the power of the monorail, which is powered by a generator, which I assume is at the fortress, the fortress is blown up. The power generate, though no one is killed or injured on the Imperial side, at least the important officials, the power is taken out, so the monorail stops, leaving the Batch trapped in the air. We pick up right where we left off in Plan 99. Tech spirals up to get the power back. He gets the power back to the monorail, but the Bad Batch are getting surrounded by V-Wings and other TK troopers. And then it comes. Tech is hanging on by a thread, by a zip line, and the only way he can escape is by activating Plan 99, which is the sacrifice. Tech lets go of the zip line, the Batch cruise on back, and Tech dies. The aftermath is very blurry from Omega's perspective as she's trying to process the trauma. They decide to go back to Ord Mantell because Omega needs medical help because the train car she was in crashed. They three on Ord Mantell starts getting Omega to help, and then Echo's waiting outside on the Havoc Marauder, and he starts to notice something. A Star Destroyer emerges in the sky. And he goes to tell the Batch about it, but alas, the comms are jammed. Sid is talking to Wrecker, and she apologizes to him about what happened to Tech, and then she apologizes again. And then it's revealed that she took a deal with the Empire. She betrayed the batch and turned over the Empire. She had a lot of heat on her, apparently, but she turned the batch over to the Empire. Hemlock captures both Hunter and Wrecker to try and get to Omega. Omega refuses to give herself up to save Hunter and Wrecker, not trusting Hemlock. But while the Imperial occupation of Ord Mantell is underway, Scorch, one of Delta Squad, stuns her. And although Hunter and Wrecker manage to escape with the help of Echo in an Imperial walker and fly away, Omega is captured by Hemlock and taken alongside Crosshair to Mount Tantus, where she is to be used as leverage over Nala Se. Then Hemlock's assistant comes in, Emery Carr, who we've been seeing a bit over the last few episodes, and tells Omega not to worry because she isn't and questions Omega over her attachment to Crosshair when her own sister is there. And we end season 2 of the Bad Batch with a revelation that Emery Carr and Omega are sisters. And that's how we end the season. What a 3 episodes what a 3 episode sequence to go through. Like holy crap. Like
probably the best 3 episode run, in my opinion. I think it was pretty phenomenal.
I would say honestly, you know what I would say?
Yeah.
I would say the best 3 episode run is actually combined of these 2 and like of 2 of these and then one from before, because I would say Pabu tipping point. No, sorry. I'd say the Outpost Pabu tipping point is my favorite 3 episode run.
Interesting. Okay.
Of the season.
Very
Maybe you could also argue for me Clone Conspiracy, Truth and Consequences, The Crossing is another underrated one. Or even Ruins of War, The Solitary Clone, Faster, 2, 3, 4. But we'll get all that to our retrospective episode next week. But let's start off with Tipping Point. So yeah, we start off.
What an episode.
We start off with seeing. Yeah, Balmora is in there. We start off by seeing this clone network, the resistance network that Rex has formed. And we see what they're doing. They're rescuing clones. We see them rescuing Hauser from the Ryloth arc. We see a bunch of other clones working with the network. One of the clones' names is Nemec, which I remember specifically because this came out pretty soon after Andor. And we're like, oh look, there's a clone named Nemec too. That's cool. But yeah, Hauser gets rescued. Echo's there, Rex is there, so's Gregor, and they bomb an Imperial transport, and they get the fuck out of there. And I love the fact that remember, because Echo knows who Hauser is because he was on Ryloth in season 1, so that's how they know each other. Because at first I was like, wait, how does Rex know who Hauser is? There's no way he should have known about that. And then I realized, oh no, wait, Echo knows because he was on Ryloth in season 1, and that makes sense. Yeah, it's a fantastic action sequence episode. Like, it's a fantastic action sequence in the beginning. It's energizing, it's empowering, and it sets the episode off really well.
I think I agree. I thought the opening sequence was brilliant. I love the fact that they it felt like the episode went out of its way just to have the officers say, we have a schedule to keep, using the classic English villain accent. I thought that was just perfect, and I really got a kick out of that. I loved seeing Gozantes come back, being a big Rebels fan. They feature heavily in that show, so it's cool to see them here as well. Echo and Rex doing their things. Yeah, it's an amazing opening sequence, and then to top it all off with the officer freaking killing himself, just like in Mandalorian.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It makes me wonder, how does Palpatine inspire such fanaticism? We just got in power. He just took power. This empire is new, and this guy's already literally ride or die.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love the additions of the electrocutions. I I remember like I'm just looking at my notes right now. I'm writing like, oh, please tell me it's gonna electrocute. Please, oh, he electrocuted. It's one of my favorite little additions to lore in recent years. I love that they've done that. I love that they established that in Mando, and then they went back in batch this season, and we're like, oh yeah, they've done this since the beginning.
Yeah,
I
and
think
it
it's such
would.
a Star Wars detail.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely something George either like would have done. Like it sounds like in the George universe of ideas, and I'm not saying that other things don't. I'm saying that this sounds like something that somebody would have told George, and he would have been like, "Yeah, I think that would be an interesting idea."
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it kind of hints at something that I hope we see more in the future in some on-screen content, maybe, or in some kind of content, which is getting, a closer look at Palpatine's interactions with his underlings, or maybe just in another project that's more about the Empire's side of things. How is there in certain people, how is there such fanaticism? Is it Palpatine or someone else? Kind of who is it that's creating, or maybe there's multiple, but who are creating, the cults of personality to make this all work and put this together? Because obviously that's something that we kind of see Palpatine doing that very effectively with in Anakin, and to some extent a lot of the other Jedi and politicians and even clones in the Clone Wars. So it would be interesting to see how he does that later on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I didn't think about like how he inspired the fanaticism, but that's a good point.
Because
And when you
because my
can't
feeling is like,
and it's something that you can't really like you can pretty easily explain away with Clone X earlier in the season because he seems to be brainwashed in some way.
yeah, this just seems like a regular guy though. He's not a clone,
Yeah. Oh no,
he's just an
absolutely.
officer.
That's what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
is that we have to ask
Oh
those
yeah, yeah, yeah.
questions for the other officers because they're not brainwashed. Yeah, no, that's an interesting question. Yeah, I don't know. It's like yeah, it is surprising that even because even we know Imperial officers tend to be very self-serving. And it is
Yeah.
surprising that they would give themselves up for the cause like that.
I mean, I think in a way, in some sense, it definitely makes sense because no, I was gonna say it is kind of confusing because I feel like a lot of times what we see of the Empire is, there's there's a ton of backstabbing, there's a ton of infighting. People are only motivated by fear.
Yeah.
You know,
And I guess I just realized I was trying to
kind of
think
the
because
Empire is all about looking out for number one.
yeah.
So it's interesting.
Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm thinking. And I think this is what it is. Because I was thinking, that's interesting. Why wouldn't we see that in Andor?
Yeah.
My answer for why wouldn't not Andor, sorry. I said Andor and I was thinking about Andor. I was actually thinking, why wouldn't we see that in Rebels? That's what I was thinking. Why would we see that in
Yeah.
Rebels?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I
And
think the
here's
answer
my
to that is,
I was
or
gonna say, here's
I
my
think we're probably
explanation.
gonna say the same thing, but the in Rebels, we're seeing planets and garrisons and things, scattered through the outer rim. These are not by any means the Empire's finest, no matter what the propaganda
Oh,
bureau might say.
that's not even close to what I was gonna. I mean, sort of. It's kind of what I was saying,
Like the
but
top secret projects, that's where the Empire would want to put the people who
that's
are the
what I was
most
going to
fanatic.
say.
They're willing
I
to
was going
die
to
for
say
it.
we're seeing a lot more covert branches of the Empire right now
That
with
is
the
cool. I
advanced
love that.
science division with Clone X and his assassin stuff. Like they have more motivation to keep things secret, and they have
Yeah.
more people who are willing to keep things secret.
I love that. I hope they dive so far into that in Bad Batch season 3.
Absolutely.
I'm no conspiracy theorist. I'm no conspiracy theorist, at least not on this planet. But I absolutely love the idea of the Imperial deep state, and just
Oh, absolutely.
seeing all
Yeah.
the crazy, sinister fucking that Palpatine's got going on
Absolutely.
behind the
I hope
scenes.
they put that in Andor. I hope they put
Oh
it in
yeah,
Andor.
they're gonna 100%. I'm so ready for it. I'm so ready for it. I'm so
Yeah.
excited for it.
Yeah, no,
Also,
I'm excited for it as well, and it makes sense also that Moff Gideon would want to keep his shit super secret. Not
yeah,
even from the galaxy, but even, there's that scene from chapter 23 where it's made clear that the rest of the Imperial ruling council doesn't really have any idea what Gideon's doing.
yeah,
So he's trying to keep his shit secret from everybody.
yeah. And this is
Uh,
we don't even know how far pre Gideon's ascension to power the Bad Batch ultimately is, you know? Another thing is, I think maybe the difference is the fanaticism might come from if the Empire deems you important enough, they will make sure you know that the punishment for failure
is
is
death.
worse than death. It is worse than death. That's why, remember what the Grand Inquisitor said. There's some things far more frightening than death. He would rather kill himself than have to tell Lord Vader that he failed.
That he fucked up, yeah.
Like I think
I
I
mean,
think it's just a matter of the people who are important enough to the Empire's plans, who are working on something important enough
yeah.
that someone else is going to be like, well, I'm going to torture you to death now, basically, because you mess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So then we get to the stuff on Wayland. And I will say, I think this episode of all of them, I think tipping point for me, at least what I marked, has the most bass drums I've ever heard in a Bad Batch episode, and that's
I
saying
love the
something.
bass drops. Yeah,
I'm
they're so
I'm
good.
like, God damn it! We know it's getting intense. You don't have to do all these fucking bass drums. I mean, I love it, but
Yeah.
I hate it.
I mean, I think it's awesome. I think it's a lot of fun.
I think it's fantastic too. Yeah. I think it's fantastic. I just like, it's just like, oh, come on. All right. So let's see. All right. So yeah, we have the stuff with we go back to Wayland. We're looking at Hemlock and talking to Crosshair. Hemlock's talking to Crosshair, and one of the things he says is, I actually admire such initiative, shooting your commander
Yeah,
officer. I'm like,
so funny.
I don't clock that. Even from somebody as weird and quirky as Hemlock, you can buy it's something he can just keep saying. Like, you can buy it's something that he's just saying, and that's what I'm going with right now. But I don't actually buy that he's impressed with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just kind of. I mean, I was gonna say later, he is just kind of a sicko. Like
I mean,
he
he is
like
a sicko, but like, there's no reason why he'd be impressed by somebody shooting their commanding officer in the back.
I don't know. I think it just goes to show that he thinks of the clones and even other Imperials. Like everything is maybe not necessarily maybe not necessarily an asset. Everything's everything's a lab test to him, you know. Everything's just a scientific experiment or an oddity to be examined. He doesn't care about the fact that Hunter killed someone, you know. He's just like, oh, cool.
Yeah, the
This
crosshair
is
killed
what we're
something. Yeah,
dealing with now.
yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting.
I think Crosshair, sorry, go ahead.
I was also going to talk about crosshair, but you go first.
I think Crosshair is super compelling in this episode. I really like him
Absolutely.
here. I mean, we already I mean, even in season one, and then little bits here and there through season one, and then more throughout season two, but really here and in the outpost and here in the tipping point, just seeing him this desperate, this low, this forlorn,
Oh
it
yeah, I
really
think
makes it really makes you feel for him. And he is quickly becoming one of my favorite characters in the Bad Batch.
absolutely. I think we're seeing at this point that he's learned the lessons from the solitary clone of the outpost. I think there is good in him, and I think that he's ready to break free from the Empire. but unfortunately, the minute he realizes that the Empire may not be what it's cracked up to be, it starts clamping down on him. And now he's going to have to deal with a bunch of the consequences of his actions, because the Batch will love him and accept him no matter what. The Empire, not so much. The Empire, Crosshair may have done terrible things, but at the end of the day, he's still one of the Batch, and they will still accept him. The Empire does care what he does, and it's whatever they want him to do. And as soon as he's not doing that, they don't got much use for him, except for now they're trying to find his squad because they need them, because that's an asset, and blah blah blah. So it's unfortunate that that Crosshair, in this way, he's finally seen the light, but he's also seeing something more consequential, which is the consequences of his own actions.
Yeah. I think he's realizing also, it's a little too late,
Yeah, it's a little
at the same time. Sorry, go ahead.
It's way too late. Yeah.
It's way too late, but at the same time, at the same time, I do feel like this episode is in some way kind of also saying, it is never too late to make some difference.
Well, absolutely. I think that there's a difference between it's never too late to make some difference. And I think it's never too late to make a difference, but you also have to deal with what you've done while you've made the mistakes.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I agree.
You have to deal with that. And Crosshair is definitely having to deal with that. I want to talk about Emery for a bit, because we get this revelation. I think we should just talk about it now, honestly, because I don't really want to talk about it at the end, because as much as I love the ending of Plan 99, this one part is maybe one of my few sticking points of these few episodes. What the fuck is this with Emery? What the fuck is this?
You weren't a fan?
I mean, look, she's a clone. That's cool. I just don't see what that adds right. I don't see why. She was just introduced in these past few episodes. We don't really care about her yet. And it's just a strange revelation to drop how and when they did.
Oh, absolutely it is. I think it really is leading into next season. I wouldn't be surprised if
I hope it does.
Yeah.
And I hope it does. And
because that would make it make sense. That would make it pay off.
Yeah. Right now, however, it feels like something they did just to do. And frankly, if if they have a good reason for doing it, if they show us that good reason next season, I'm all for it. And I trust them to show us that good reason. I personally have my own theories about what that reason is. But right now, because she's sympathetic, she seems like a good person. She's working with the Empire, though, so how good can she be? But is that working?
I don't know about good person. Like
she seems kind.
She wasn't very nice to Crosshair.
I don't know. I think she seemed I
guess you're under the circumstances.
Or under the circumstances, I was going to say. I think she was
under the circumstances. They could have done a lot worse. So
yeah, and it's one of those things where what are her motivations? Who is she actually? Actually, that's the other question that I had, is just how is she another also clone of Django? How is she a sister of Omega? My current theory right now, which is what I wrote down, is that she is also completely unaltered, except for one thing. She actually does have the accelerated aging. But other than that, she's completely unaltered.
That would make sense.
Other than that, she's no changes to their coding or anything, no inhibitor chip, no changes to the DNA structure to make them more docile, none of that. But the accelerated aging, that did happen actually.
That would be interesting, because I could see
that's my theory.
See the Kaminoans wanting to experiment and play around with all the different ways that they could make the clones.
Make Django's DNA. See that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
could definitely see that.
that's currently my theory about Emery, but we don't actually have any evidence to that one. What we do have evidence for is then that I'm very excited about is that Emery is voiced by somebody who has history with Star Wars before.
Who's that?
Well, Emery is voiced by voice actress, she's an actress, but named Keisha Castle Hughes.
Keisha Castle.
And I think Castle Hughes does a fantastic job with Emery with what she's given in this episode, which admittedly is not a lot. And I'm not saying the writers didn't like. I think the writers gave her little very intentionally because I think she's still intended to be this great mystery of the show.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
Sure.
Keisha Castle Hughes, although she's never spoken in Star Wars, she has appeared in Star Wars before. She played the Queen of Naboo, Queen Apailana, at Padme's funeral in episode 3.
Wow.
That's her. So this is a return to her of Star Wars. This is a return to in Star Wars to her.
Long time for a reunion. I love it.
Absolutely. It's been now 18 years. And look at that. There's another Bad Batch tradition of bringing back people we haven't seen in over a decade. But I gotta say, I love what she was doing with Emery, with the little she got. And I'm excited to see her next season. And I think one of the things I have an idea of, which is basically this. So we have at the end of the season, we'll get to these in the next few episodes. Next to the season, at the end of this season, we have 3 batch out, right? We have Hunter, Wrecker, and Echo all out, right?
Yeah.
And then we technically have 3 in. We have Omega in, we have Crosshair in, and then we just conveniently lost one of the members of the Bad Batch.
Oh, so you think Omega's sister is going to join?
I think Emery is going to be a new Tech. I don't think you can ever replace Tech, but I think she's going to, like, in terms of like strategy and tactics, I think she could replace Tech's role.
That would be very interesting.
We would go back to having our 6-person Bad Batch and still have Tech's death matter. Well, tactically, the squad would have made up for it.
That's a very interesting idea. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that possibility.
I like it too, and we'll talk about it later. But that's my thing on Emery. She doesn't make a lot of sense to me right now, and I don't think she's supposed to. But yeah, Crosshair obviously escapes. And by the way, I know I was talking to you this last episode, but I need to say this again, Jacob. Dr. Royce HEMLOCK has an immunity he built up to a poison.
They're a little on the nose with that one.
This is maybe one of the stupidest things Star Wars has ever done, and I love it so much.
And it is classic Star Wars.
So ridiculously on the nose and stupid, and it is so incredibly Star Wars because of that. Dr. HEMLOCK being immune to poison, like, come on, guys. It's so funny. It's so fucking funny to me. I love it so much.
This is the same franchise where I think we kind of overlook this fact because it's so ingrained in us. This is the same franchise that had a character whose main traits were not wanting to be part of a team really and wanting to work alone. They named that character Solo.
Yes, they did name him Solo. Well, he named himself Solo. Don't forget about Drod Munbrin.
Oh, don't remind me of that.
By the way, if you had one guy to name him Han Solo, it would be Drod Munbrin. I mean, that guy had a crappy name.
Of the guy.
That guy had a crappy name. Of course, he'd give that other guy a crappy name.
Han Drod. I'd rather be named Han Solo than
Drod Munbrin. Yes, exactly.
I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it 250s with you, Eli. I can't.
Well, also there's also the fact that let's look at the main characters of the show. We have the guy who's dressed like a Rambo guy, like Rambo, and who's like an old-fashioned hunter. And what do they call him? Hunter. The guy who busts stuff up and wrecks stuff. What do they call that guy? Wrecker. We have a guy who's very good with technology, and they call him Tech. And then they got a guy whose eye is literally like a crosshair of a rifle, and they call him Crosshair. Oh, also, there's a guy who kept repeating orders in the Clone Wars, and they called him Echo. Very creative with the names here, guys.
Creativity is sometimes not Star Wars' strongest point. Sometimes not the strongest.
Sometimes, and then sometimes they have characters named Drod Mundrin.
Yeah.
Or sometimes
sometimes they do.
Sometimes they have characters
Enough
named
said.
Zargo Anaximander, which is one of my favorite examples of a strange Star Wars name, Zargo Anaximander. If you have not yet, this is your daily reminder, and weekly reminder, because that's how often this show comes out. This is your weekly reminder to read Shadow of the Sith, because it's the GOAT Star Wars book, and because Adam Christopher is a god. All right, yeah, we're going back to Pabu. We're going back to Pabu. This episode takes place. This is episode 1 of 3 that takes place on the planet. Not 1 of 3. 1 of 2 that takes place on the. No, 3 because with the summit. 3 that takes place on the planet of Pabu. And they're chilling, and then we get to see Echo experience Pabu, which is a cool thing to experience. Again, anytime we see somebody new experience Pabu, in the previous episode it was the entire crew, but now it's Echo, and I love that staggered he gets to experience too.
Yeah, everybody loves Pabu, and it's such a contrast in this episode that we cut away from this gritty, antsy,
horrifying,
thing, and you cut away from that, and then immediately, boom, we're back in paradise. We're back on the tropical island with all you can eat sushi. That occasionally has giant deadly tsunamis, but we don't need to talk about that.
30 years, Jacob. 30 years. It doesn't happen a whole lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
although you'd think if it happens. You'd think 30 years is recent enough for them to be like, okay, we should have some kind of protection against it. 30 years ago.
They had a warning system, okay?
Tons of
30 years ago, the Clone Wars hadn't happened yet. Maybe
okay,
they were working on it, and then the Clone Wars erupted.
Okay, that's fair enough. But there had to have been tons of Pabuans who lived through the 30-year-old tsunami.
Maybe that is the point of that episode, because it's mostly it was apparently talking about mostly refugees from the Clone Wars and then the Empire's rule.
That's actually a good point.
And
so maybe they didn't.
Maybe they just knew because they'd done some meteorological calculations that the last one had been 30 years, and they were just starting to build that, but they didn't quite get there.
That's a fair point. Also, their warning system sucked. So many people would have drowned if it weren't for the Bad Batch that just happened to be there on that day.
Well, no, their warning system didn't suck. Their warning system was pretty good. The
response to the warning, I don't know.
Their response response team left stuff to be desired. But the warning system, it sounded when there was about to be a tsunami. We'll give them that.
It did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah. But I love the fact that, something has to yank them back in the story. Something, but it wasn't looking that good for a moment. Hunter says to Shep in the beginning of this episode, we're considering staying here full time. But he also acknowledged, I also love that he acknowledged how weird it was. And there's that idea of, for soldiers, putting down roots is an occupational hazard. And I love that line because again, it's one of those things, and I like this specific principle because it's a scientific principle, but I think you can apply it to people and seeing how people work and how people operate very well too, which is Isaac Newton's first law of motion.
Yeah.
What does that say? An object stays in motion
acted upon
by an opposing force.
External force. Yeah.
An external force. An object stays at rest unless people keep doing what they're doing unless somebody convinces them to change. And they've been on the move ever since their squad's inception, so they don't know a life of stillness. They don't know that. They cannot organically do that unless somebody steps in and says and convinces them, hey, you should do this. And I like that idea. And then when Echo lands, Tech is of course giving Omega flying lessons, and there's this really fun line where Omega goes, "The tick turn, really?" And then and then Tech goes, "Now that is not what it's called, but I rather like it."
Dude, I love Tech. It makes me so sad. it makes me so sad knowing what was coming. Watching this episode, knowing what was
We'll
coming.
get there. We'll get there. We'll get there.
I'm just saying.
But I love that Tech
Tech
is growing into his own skin a little bit. Like he's like, yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, definitely. I like the way he says. He's just like very matter of fact. But if it says, "Yeah, we're safe," only because I'm a boss and I have good reflexes and I can think on my feet.
It's fantastic.
Like, yeah, talk your shit, Tech.
We got Bill Huff Tarkin's re-entry into this series. The last time we saw him, I believe, was last season, actually. And God, Steven Stanton's so good at doing that character. Like, of all the characters that he does, like, new and old, AP5 is fantastic. His Kenobi, I think, is underrated in Twin Sons. I'm trying to think of other ones that he does. He does AP5. He did. Oh, he was Admiral Radis, and that was good. He was Griff on Resistance, and I think those are all fantastic. He was Masameda. Again, I think it's fantastic. But Will F. Tarkin, I think, is the best one he does, honestly. I think Tarkin is the best one he does. I love what he evokes from the late great Peter Cushing. I really do love that. I think it's really something special that he does there.
It's a great portrayal of Tarkin here. It really is.
Yeah.
Even though it looks like he's aged maybe 15 years since we see him in Lola Sayu. But
I was gonna say that was like 4 years, and he's aged he's aged at least
not even
9
4 years.
No, it's been no, that's been like 3 years. 4 years.
When does
like that?
How long after Order 66 does the Bad Batch season?
I believe the year switches somewhere in Batch. I believe at the start of the season it's still 19 BBY, but it switches to 18 somewhere in there.
So it could be around a year later potentially. And
around this point, it is the year.
Yeah, so this is like 2 years. This is 2 to 2.5, maybe
2.5 years. Yeah, in two and a half years, he ages like 8. So yeah, that makes sense. But I love everything that Tarkin does in both this episode and the summit. Fantastic. And we'll get to Eriadu and what that means for. And yes, I know. By the way, for people who are about to correct me, I know it is pronounced Eriadu. I don't care. Eriadu sounds better.
It does.
I've decided that this is one of the only Star Wars pronunciations that I just don't care about.
Eriadu. I really grew up thinking it was Eriadu.
I kept saying Eriadu, and I like that better, and that's what I'm gonna keep going with. There's just some other ones like I remember I was on a call with some friends, and a friend of the show, Alden Diaz, was telling me that he voiced the species. What was it? It was the species that great figures like Eloasti and Eli. He voiced it. He said it as Edo. I'm like, no, man, it's Abednego. It's Abednego, 100%. And then like a bunch of us got into a huge argument about whether it was Abednego or Abednego. I'm like, it's Abednego, and I swear if Pablo Hidalgo himself says the canon pronunciation is Abednego, I will still go, yeah, so Abednego. If J.J. Abrams comes out and says, yeah, I actually intended it to be said Abednego, I would still say Abednego. That's how committed I am to this stuff. If George Lucas himself said, yeah, it's actually pronounced Zamwizel, we're not going to go there. Never mind. Then we have of a great line here, and I remember Alex Damon from Star Wars Explained talking about this line when this episode came out, and it's this quick exchange of dialogue where Hunter says, Echo, you've seen the power we're up against. You can't defeat them. And Echo says, it's not about that. It's about fighting for our brothers. And it's one of those things where
that's a great moment.
It's a great moment, and it's one of those like. It's one of the main themes of like an Empire Strikes Back Star Wars story, a middle chapter of a Star Wars story, which is with no end in sight. How do you keep fighting and not lose your sanity or your soul?
How do you keep fighting knowing that you're not going to be the one to win?
At
your
least not
best.
alone.
Like, yeah, but like, how do you keep fighting? At least like knowing or feeling like, at least at this point with the Empire, like you got to feel pretty certain that the best you can hope for is not even to win, but just that there will be someone else to carry on the fight.
Yeah,
That was
and,
very
and
powerful to me. And that
yeah,
was that I feel like that was kind of the subtext of what Echo was really saying in a way.
oh,
You know?
absolutely. That's
It was
what
just
that's
like,
and given that Lucasfilm's been releasing a lot of middle chapters here, Mando was one of the
yeah.
only exceptions. With Bad Batch, with that's a main theme of Jedi Survivor, which I know I've completed several times and Jacob still hasn't, but trust me, it is it's a main theme. Is how do you keep how do you keep fighting and how you keep like talking about what you believe in, but not lose your soul to it.
Yeah. Funnily enough, Saw Gerrera, who's a case study in that very thing, shows up in the next episode.
Absolutely, we're gonna talk about Saw.
We're gonna get to that, yeah.
We're gonna talk about Saw. We're gonna talk about the only one with clarity of purpose.
Dude, Saw is so funny to me, man.
I am the
Saw is
only
so
one with clarity of purpose. I love that guy. Anything Forrest Whitaker, I'll talk to anyway. But yeah, they put the pieces together, and that leads us into our finale. Anything else do you want to say before we go into this fucking banana balls 2-part finale?
I'll just say I think this episode is absolutely amazing. Yeah, it's a really good episode. I think it's, of all the episodes of the Bad Batch, I think this one, it might not be my very favorite because it doesn't have the most exciting content, perhaps, but just in terms of the execution, in terms of the pacing, the way the story flows, just having every component of the story kind of just working in harmony in terms of that feeling of execution. I think this might be the best episode of Bad Batch from that more technical standpoint. It was so potent, taut, tense, compelling. It kept driving forward. I really love this episode. I really
There
do.
was a sense of why, like, I was asking myself why, or a little earlier in the season, why I didn't like try and do like a few more 2 episodes, and why I insist putting this one with the finale. But I wouldn't have it any other way. The best strength of this episode is what it does to set up the finale.
Absolutely.
And that's not a slight on the episode. It fulfilled exactly what it was meant to do. And let's talk about what it was meant to set up. Why don't we?
Let's do it. Yeah.
So they're leaving for Eriadu. They find out that, wow, I did it. Fuck.
Eriadu.
Eriadu. Which one of the things I love about Eriadu, and this was greatly expanded on in the novel that was written about Tarkin. That was one of the first for the new canon. Just the titular Tarkin, and that Wilhuff is a reflection of the planet he grew up on, because like it looks from what we see of this episode, it looks like a pretty calm, peaceful planet, like trees growing everywhere and all that kind of stuff.
Didn't Tarkin have an incredibly traumatic childhood? Isn't that kind of the way he is? That's the reason the way he is the way he is.
That's what I was going to say, is that it's a very rough planet. It's a very rough planet. They're like animals that will tear your shit out and stuff like that. And I love the idea of Eriadu mirroring Tarkin, about like beneath the polite and placid exterior, you have this harsh and vile soul under it.
Yeah, real, like, true brutality.
Because Tarkin is extremely polite. Right before
you can
he
say that.
bombs worlds.
Yeah. He is also very passive aggressive in this episode towards Hemlock. I want to point that out. I just think it's funny. I just thought it was funny how petty Tarkin decided to be. He was like, now that everyone's finally here, we can get ready. I'm like, oh, come on.
Well,
dude.
yeah, and of all the commanders in that room, we've never seen him be never seen him to be passive aggressive against any other of them. None.
Are you being I assume you're being sarcastic right now.
Yes.
I couldn't
Krennic is like that entire relationship between them in those 2 movies is Krennic going, hey, can I do this? And Tarkin going, sure.
Yeah. It's really
totally.
it's Krennic.
You can totally do that.
Krennic's saying, "I made this," and then Tarkin's saying, "No, I made this." That's what it really is. But yours as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, Eriadu is fantastic. I also want to notice. I also want to point out that Tech is the one. Tech is the one that pioneers this mission. We do not leave our own behind. Tech says.
damn right.
I
Damn
love
straight.
that as like a final because in the show in TCW or in the beginning of this show, I don't think he would have been like saying that.
Now we
I think
see
he
the
would have
real.
deferred to Hunter
Yeah.
or maybe Echo or maybe Rex or whoever it would be.
Yeah. But I think he comes into his own where Tech has kind of found his moral voice. And I think we can kind of trace that back to, him talking with Omega in the cave episode, in the crossing, Like
I also think stuff like
that
Faster,
feels like a direct line to this,
I think stuff like Faster, I think stuff, even like the arc at the beginning of the season really led to him finding his voice and finding who he was as a person.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
This was the season of Tech.
Oh, absolutely.
This was the season of Tech.
I want to send you to a flashback of me a few months ago. See you around, brown eyes. Is Tech gonna? No, they wouldn't do that, right? Right? They wouldn't do that. Arrested Development voice. They, in fact, did do that. That was the moment where I'm like, they're not gonna. Are they gonna kill off Tech? No, they couldn't.
I can't remember the circumstances under which I watched the finale the first time, but I feel like it was spoiled for me. Ooh. I feel like it was spoiled for me because I feel like I knew. But yeah, I mean, rewatching it, the foreshadowing is there's a certain feeling you get sometimes, and this is the worst part of being a Star Wars fan, or I guess a fan of anything. Something bad's gonna happen. You just feel a little sick to your stomach, but you have to accept it.
I felt the same feeling that I felt
to go for the ride again.
I felt the same feeling that I felt when Han walked onto that bridge. Where I'm like, I think I know what's about to happen, but I don't think they'd do that, would they?
Man. Yeah. I mean, this was so powerful when I was watching not even his death, but the lead up sequence to his death, with him even before, he's dangling there and the TIE fighters or
the moment he like starts to jump up in Plan 99, I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah, the V-wings
are shooting. No.
And I think it took me right back to when I was 12. I remember it. I was 12 and my family was on a road trip. I was 12. I was in the car. I was holding an iPad and I was sitting in the back seat watching in disbelief as the Phantom flew away from the Malachor temple without Ahsoka inside.
Oh yeah. Oh, I thought you were gonna go for a different Rebels moment.
I had that very same feeling where I was just like, holy shit.
I thought you were gonna talk about a different Rebels moment where it's like Kanan's cutting his hair.
Oh man, that's true. That oh my gosh. Man, season 4
and you
Rebels,
realize he gonna die. Like, he gonna die.
People didn't realize the greatness that they were witnessing in season 3 and especially season 4 of Rebels. That was really something else. My goodness.
He gonna die anyway. But yeah, I do I will say this. I love that his relationship with Fee is still extremely awkward. They gave him a good arc before he died, but you can't say everything you want to say or do everything you want to do before he died. That's just not possible. So I love that they make him.
It's the same with Kanan and Hera to an extent,
Yeah, but I love that he wasn't perfect before he died. You know what I mean?
100%.
They gave him an arc and he's a better version of himself, but no one's perfect.
He was still kind of a dick to Fee.
And I don't think it was intentionally, but
No, I don't think it's I don't think it's intentional at all, and I think Fee knows that.
Yeah,
Fee knows that, but I think it's just kind of it just goes. It's kind of just saying, hey, people are complicated, and not to be too morbid or anything, but you should always be kind to people, especially the people that you really love,
Yeah.
because nothing is you
Well, we
can't
don't really
take
know
every day for
how
granted.
Tech felt about Fee.
We don't know, that's true. But I
Yeah.
just mean in a general sense.
No,
Like
I understand.
he
Yeah.
cares about her as friends of the squad, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But feeling just watching that scene and feeling like, wait, is there actually is there actually palpable romantic tension in the Bad Batch? What is happening right now? It's a pretty fun scene just for that alone.
By the way, here's something that I'm a little annoyed about, just lore wise in this one. It's been
What's
a
that?
year. The Empire is up and running. Like, I understand they might not have all of their sheep in a row, but why the fuck are we still seeing TK troopers and V wings?
In V-Wings, I think it's just it takes time. The transition takes time. I think
mean,
it's more
yeah, but like
realistic and interesting that way than to just be like TIE fighter, TIE fighter, TIE fighter, go, go, go.
I know, well, like it's been 2 seasons. It's been a year. Like, I want to see my fucking TIE fighters. I want to see the stormtroopers. I want to see the
You'll
TIE
get your TIE
fighters.
fighters. Don't worry, you'll get your TIE fighters.
I really hope we're gonna get them in S3 because I really want to see them. It feels so unnatural because like I expect them and credit to them because the V-wings do sort of look like TIE fighters.
Well, I
Like
think
when
the
they're
viewing is kind of the intermediary step symbolically. You know, they
oh
sound
absolutely, yeah.
much more like TIE fighters. They're made by Sinar, are they not?
I think so, probably, yeah.
Yeah, they're made by Sinar. I used to have a Lego V-wing.
Yeah.
My dog ate it or something.
I want to talk about our boy at the meeting.
Which boy? Tarkin?
Nah,
HEMLOCK?
Krennic.
Krennic. Man,
This is our
was just
first
sitting there.
on. This
What do
is
you mean?
this is
What do
our
you
first
mean?
on-screen appearance of Orson Krennic. Do you realize
Okay,
that
that's
one
fair.
chronologically?
That is fair, yeah.
I did some research because obviously the book Catalyst, which was the tie-in novel, the prequel to Rogue One, has more information than this one. So when Tarkin asks him, Commander Krennic, tell us more about Project Stardust. He is currently working on it with his deputy and longtime friend, Galen Walton Urso. Urso's still working on it. He won't leave the Empire for another year. The Rogue One prologue will not take place for another few years. Yeah, I think Rogue One prologue takes place in 15 BBY. So, we'll get to that when we get to that. The point being is, I love that Krennic's here. I fucking love that Krennic's here. I love that they animated the model. Do you realize he says like 2 lines in this whole thing, and that's still Ben Mendelsohn, and they still got him?
Fair enough.
Like,
Fair play.
movie star Ben Mendelsohn. Like
Fair play. Fair play.
Secret Invasion Ben Mendelsohn. Like Ready Player One Ben Mendelsohn. Like Captain Marvel Ben Mendelsohn. That Ben Mendelsohn.
Ready Player One.
What?
We don't talk about Ready Player One.
I thought it was a decent movie.
I didn't like it. I guess it was better than, I don't know. The book was just.
I've heard the book is awful. I haven't read it, so.
I don't think the book is awful. I think it's good. We can cut this out if it's too irrelevant.
Yeah,
I just really don't like the way he talks about women's bodies. It's very creepy.
I've heard that as well, honestly. Yeah.
He goes into way too much detail. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
But anyways, back on target. Yeah, I mean, Ben Mendelsohn. Shout out to Ben Mendelsohn for
shout out to Ben Mendelsohn. One of my favorite parts of Rogue One. One of my favorite parts of Rogue One is Ben Mendelsohn's performance as Director Krennic. Still can't save that movie from being mid as hell, but anyway.
No more Rogue One slander. No more Rogue One slander. We literally just talked about how in Solo was the movie where they had that the worst scene in all of Star Wars. Han Solo stamps passport. The end.
Anyway,
not even gonna.
Yeah, let's.
I reserve the right to abstain from any Rogue One related slander.
You know what I realized? We're getting to a lot soon on In the Galaxy, and this is related to this episode, and you'll see why.
Solo?
Train sequences.
Oh yeah.
We get a lot of
train sequences.
Because I was like, other than these few, I don't think we've gotten a lot of train sequences in Star Wars. The three train sequences I can think of that we've gotten in Star Wars are this at the end of this episode, the train sequence at the beginning of Jedi Fallen Order, and then the train sequence in Solo. Both of the latter two, which we're getting to pretty soon after we finish this season. Get ready for a lot of train sequences, I guess is what I'm saying.
Fair enough. Everybody loves trains. You know,
yeah.
How about Tarkin though? How about Tarkin in the meeting scenes? Because this guy, bro, Tarkin, he was determined to make that meeting happen. And I thought it was a fun moment. I loved seeing Tarkin, you know. The bombs, the news breaks, the bombs go off. Or I guess the news breaks first.
Yeah.
And he's like, gentlemen, please take your seats. We will continue. And then he kind of says very pointedly, he kind of says, as you can see, we are quite safe, as if to say, oh, no one's getting out of here. No one's leaving. That's what he's really saying. They lock the doors, they close the windows and everything.
They get those shock troopers in there, yeah.
Shock troopers come in, and then the explosion happens, and you see Tarkin's face. Just like, dude, Tarkin.
He's like, dude's like checking his watch and shit.
I don't want to call him. I don't feel like badass is quite the right word to describe Tarkin.
He's stone cold.
He's ice. Yeah, he's ice cold. He does not crack under pressure.
By the way, you realize the other people at that table, right? Other than Tarkin and Hemlock and Krennic.
No.
Well, there's General Hurstrom Modi from New Hope, and then he was later retconned to be in Rogue One, played by a new actor. And then Admiral Kohar, Admiral Coburn from the Clone Wars.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, he was the one who was like, "Hey, I think the clones are kind of neat, though."
Yeah. Then Tarkin was like, "Fuck no, loser."
It's like, it's like
hell
nope. No. Yeah, and then and so we have this. By the way, God love Jimmy Simpson. Like, love that man for all he does in making me hate the absolute fuck out of Royce Hemlock.
Yeah, I think Hemlock is such a. I'm very excited for Hemlock to come back next season.
So am I. I love him so much more than Rampart. I like Rampart, but Rampart is not the best thing that Nasir Dalal has done in Star Wars.
I mean, Rampart's just your boilerplate, like pretty boilerplate, arrogant Imperial.
Rampart is fantastic. Again, Rampart's not the best Star Wars character Nasir Dalal has done.
What else has
Nasir done? Bo Dakuna of Fuck Bo Dakuna fame.
Wait, that's the same voice actor?
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty good. That's good range, though.
It is good.
Amazing range.
It is good range. Anyway, but there's a sequence of Hemlock, and he's describing his projects. Once we fully unlock the secrets previously only known to the Kaminoans, we will ensure an enlightened society through their advanced technology and molecular alteration. That doesn't mean anything, but I'm fucking scared.
Yeah, I mean, Hemlock is he is a true believer. I don't know what his relation to Palpatine is, but whatever is going on, he seems pretty ride or die for Palpatine. Like
he absolutely is.
He is pretty bought into not just doing what he's doing for science,
but for the Empire,
for Palpatine.
Yeah. For the Empire,
and not just for, I don't think it's for the Empire. The way he talks about it is for Palpatine specifically.
Yeah,
because the Emperor, he's always talking about the Emperor's purpose.
Purpose,
the highest purpose.
I was just gonna.
It's very Bissy. Reminds me of like Biss in the old legends, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Freaking, what was I gonna say about the Hemlock? Oh yeah, Hemlock I think does some of the greatest work with the dialogue. That reminds me of what Harrison Ford said to Lucas on the set of New Hope when he was trying to read hard Lucas dialogue. He goes, "You can type this shit, George, but you can't say it." And that is this dialogue. Like, this hodgepodge of words and phrases means literally nothing, but Jimmy Simpson makes it sound extremely threatening.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just enough. It's just enough to give us a little bit of clarity, but not enough to actually tell us anything about what's happening. But yeah, let's see. I literally took so many notes on the fucking meeting that I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot we're dealing with the Bad Batch here. Whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah. Omega being the one, I was gonna say this. Omega being the one to place the tracker on Hemlock's ship, even if it doesn't work. That's growth for the character. Would they trust her to do that in early season 1? No. But Wrecker goes, "Do you think you're up for it?" And Omega says, "Yep." And she was, and he's like, "Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. Go do it." And then she does it. And then she gets off scot-free except for that mouse droid, and then Wrecker impales the mouse droid. So that's Omega's arc. That's Omega's arc from beginning of season 1. You have to stay behind on the ship too. You have to do the thing that hinges on the whole mission's success. Even though it doesn't go that way, she does her part well. That's Omega's arc for me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. What else? What else for this episode? Talk about Saw Gerrera.
Let's do it.
Because I mean, this is I don't think there's too much to say because all I will say is this is typical Saw Gerrera, you know. He just wants to blow up the base. He doesn't care about any prisoners, even when he hears about it. There's no change of plans. So you expect me to not blow shit up just so you can rescue your friends? Are you serious?
Seeing Saw at this point is fantastic. I love the there's that great line that he says that Andrew Kashino delivers beautifully. Sometimes sacrifices have to be made for the greater good. And it's like I can totally you can see one of the things is that I love about Canon is that Saw Gerrera, you can see his descent into his total sheer mania for this cause. We go from sometimes sacrifices have to be made for the greater good. Saw is the step before the revolutionary free the Wookiees. Saw before anything else is the step before the I am the only one with clarity of purpose. Saw from Andor is the only one before is the step before if you continue to fight on the Empire's terms you are going to lose. Saw from Star Wars Rebels is the step before lies, deception. Saw in Rogue One. They're all a step more into believing his own hype, believing that he is the only one who sees what's going on in the galaxy, distrust, and fighting against the Empire his way or the highway.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic and something. And I love Andrew Kashino. God, I really do love him. I think he established Saw as a great character, and I think it's great that he voiced him during the Bad Batch. But everything that Forrest Whitaker does, as I was going to say before, touches with Saw Gerrera turns to gold. My favorite scene in all of Andor, if I want to be brutally honest, is the shouting match between Luthen and Saw. The one where he calls Anto Krieger another rebel leader who's supposed to be helping him. The one where Forrest Whitaker convincingly calls him an ox. Remember that? Remember when Saw Gerrera calls another rebel leader an ox?
I do remember that. It's a moment. That's peak
it's
Saw.
fantastic.
It's peak Saw is just it's like that Homer Simpson. It's kind of like the old Homer Simpson meme where he just goes, "Everyone is dumb except me." I mean that's pretty much Saw. Saw is like, I'm smart and everyone else is dumb, and it's my way or the highway. That's kind of just his thing.
By the way, I want to address some minor discourse I've seen about this moment and say to people that I saw an idea floating around very, very, very briefly when this finale was going around on Twitter. Guys, come on. Saw is not the villain of this episode. He's not responsible for Tech's death. He's not the villain. He simply had a differing goal from the Bad Batch.
Yeah, that's true.
He's not the villain. Nobody say he's the villain, and nobody say that's how the episode was painting him, because it's not. It was just, Saw's there, and he, we're not going to convince him to do things our way, but he's not trying to hurt the Batch.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just wanted to clear that one up because I saw people saying that. I'm like, come on, guys. Fucking come on, guys. Anything else for this episode, or do we want to go straight up to 99?
Literal cliffhanger ending. We gotta get into Plan 99. This is This is
Yep.
where it really happens.
There's no second drum beat with a theme. There's just silence. The bass drums are sounding. Holy shit, this is going to hurt. First, I want to talk about Tarkin sending an air support, even though his own troops could be shot down. That's peak Empire. And I love that. I feel like we both need to get to this. There is no time, Rekka. Plan 99. Don't you do it, Tech! When have we ever followed orders?
Pretty good last
He releases
words.
the zip line, and Tech dies. My God. I remember a substantial part of both of the podcast conversations I had post Bad Batch 2, but before we did this season, both with Keith and Kerwin from Father Son Galaxy and with Jared and Connor and Kaysen from the Nerd Academy podcast and Spencer. Even though they were about summarizing the season as a whole, they were really talking about this episode in this moment, about Tech's death, because it had such a crazy impact.
It really did. I think. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think this. I think one of the things that makes this episode great. I think episodes where in TV shows, specifically in Star Wars, but also in TV and entertainment, moments of incredible loss. Especially, I think in TV shows, because it's such a great way to build up a relationship with the viewer over time, where it feels so important to the viewer. Those are some of the greatest opportunities to kind of take the show to the next level in terms of revealing. These are the moments that reveal the most about the characters, about their relationships, about who they are, about what kind of show the show wants to be. I'm thinking of, I guess not a death, but after Kanan was captured in season 1 of Rebels, that's some of the most important character development and storytelling moments of Rebels. After Hera is captured in Rebels, and after Kanan dies in Rebels, those are the moments,
Yeah, it's what a
I don't really have words. This moment hit super hard.
It hit so hard. I remember talking. If anybody who's listening to this hasn't checked out my episode with Alden Diaz about the discourse, please do. And I remember we were talking about this, and he so wisely said, we all thought that Plan 99, because we got the titles before this, we all thought Plan 99 was going to be this heroic sequence of the batch, like gathering other clones or working together in this super ingenuitive way. Plan 99 is a man down. Plan 99 is a sacrifice. And none of us saw that coming.
That's just like how 99 sacrificed himself. The original, the OG.
Holy shit. I didn't think of that. Holy shit.
There's a reason man down is Plan 99.
Yeah.
Also, what is 99 upside down?
66.
Yeah. That's right. I think the actual 99 one is more meaningful.
Oh no, I think but still,
it's this number it's the number for a reason, not just because they're Clone Force 99.
But yeah, holy shit, they wanted to get Crosshair back, but they lost one of their own instead.
Man, the whole
he'll never get to see any of them again. He'll never get to see Crosshair again. He'll never get to know that he had another sister. He'll never get to see Fee again.
Man, stop. That's
by the way, if I say one thing in this episode that I'm going to keep in this motherfucking episode. Hey, listen here. All of you Tech are not dead people. I feel your pain, I really do. That motherfucker is dead. We need badly, and Jacob knows this is one of the things I'm most passionate about with Star Wars storytelling. I'm not like somebody who demands a lot from Star Wars storytelling. We need deaths to start meaning a bit more in Star Wars.
We do. We can't. No more fake outs. No more
Tech
Rise of
is
Skywalker fake death shit.
dead dead. Tech is so dead. By the way, so is Gideon, by the way. Gideon is so dead. If you want to clone Gideon, if you want to say that one of Gideon's clones survived that, I'm honestly fine with that. But the original body, subsumed in flames, dead. We'll get to another piece of evidence that Tech is so incredibly dead at the end of the episode. But he's dead. Come on, guys. Come on.
Yeah. It almost feels like, and I think the only thing more heart-wrenching than the first 5 minutes of the episode are the second 5 minutes of the episode.
Oh, absolutely.
Watching Omega cope with it.
That's one of the the greatest things. Yeah.
The greatest line. He didn't let us save him.
And
that's like the clone. That's everything in that one line. That says so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And yeah, the blur transitions, the muffled sound editing it's like Hunter's grief after Omega was captured in S1. Perfectly done by the production team. Bravo to them. Fantastic. Love it. Yeah. We talked about this with Keith and Kerwin on Father Son Galaxy about this, but they make the decision to go back to Ord Mantell. Was that the best decision? Absolutely not. Were they in the best headspace to make a good decision right now? No, they just lost their brother.
It was a desperation move. They had nowhere left.
It was a desperation pull. Yeah, and yeah. Speaking of
fuck Sid Scaleback.
No, wait. We're gonna get to that. I was gonna just quickly say, speaking of great Omega lines, God bless Michelle Ang, and God bless her for the
what a job
delivery of he can't be.
Yeah, that was the best. Like that
beautiful,
kind of
100% beautiful.
And he didn't let us rescue him. Omega kind of exemplifies the Clone Wars, the attitude of the clones, the attitude of Star Wars, the attitude of the Clone Wars, and even of Star Wars as a whole, which is often it filters through in various ways. But at the end of the day, Star Wars is a story about heroes, and heroes have to do the impossible.
Yeah.
But sometimes the impossible is actually impossible. They can't bring back Tech. And I think it almost feels a little bit like they're kind of towing the line on not breaking the fourth wall, but they are kind of addressing maybe the creators are addressing the audience, maybe the writers are addressing the audience a little bit, saying no, Tech's actually dead.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you gotta just sit with it and let it burn,
Yeah. By the way,
I mean, that was an incredible episode.
By the way, here's another one of my favorite lines of this episode. The galaxy has changed, and so have we. It's time to put being soldiers behind us for good. Becker and I think Pabu could be a good place to make a new life for ourselves. I'm like, that's very cool. You still haven't learned your lesson. You don't have to. Don't worry about it. Things are about to get a lot worse for you.
Yeah.
All right.
And then Omega gets captured.
No, wait. I want to quickly say in as loud and as clear a voice as I can. Fuck Sid Scaleback. All my homies hate Sid Scaleback. That son of a bitch.
That was, yeah, no. Not having fun.
Honestly, I'm more angry about Sid betraying them than about Tech's death. Tech's death makes me sad, don't get me wrong. But fuck Sid. Fuck her.
When
that
Hunter,
sorry face she gives them. Don't give her the Lando treatment, Bad Batch. I'm begging you. She doesn't deserve it. Yeah.
Don't make her. How can she be? She can't be sorry now after everything.
Yeah, you can't be sorry now. There's heat on her. There's heat on all of us, Sid. Like, be fucking for real right now. Be fucking for real.
Yeah.
The
relationship that I said it before and I'll say it again. and I think it rings true to me that the relationship that Sid has with the Bad Batch is pretty literally an abusive relationship.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
nothing about that rings more true to me than when she's finally sorry. She finally
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Sid, let me ask you
she's
something.
justified.
Did you pay them back yet?
Yeah.
From when they rescued you from a gangster earlier this season? Did you do that? What about when you left them stranded on a planet that they couldn't get off because their ship was stolen? What about that one, Sid? You happy now, Sid? You happy?
Yeah. No words
Yeah.
for this episode for so many reasons.
Yeah.
I feel dumbstruck
yeah.
by everything.
The one image that I think of immediately when I think of the second part is Wrecker in his cast, handcuffed, Hemlock standing in front of him, and Delta Squad flanking him. It's just the utter heartbreak of seeing Wrecker captured. Oh no, Hemlock's found them. They're not safe. Everything is going to shit. Here's how this is gonna go. You will lower your blaster and hand over Omega, and I will allow you to keep breathing.
It's pretty sick.
I hate him so much. I hate Hemlock so much, and I love Jimmy Simpson for it. God
I love
damn
Hemlock.
it.
I love the
I
hate
love
Hemlock.
him so much. He is one of the easiest villains to love to hate.
He's a fun villain.
He's such a fun villain. And what makes him extra threatening is he is nouveau Vindy without any of the nouveau Vindy eccentricities.
No crazy hysteric laughing.
No, he doesn't say yes 600 times in a row.
Yes.
Yes, 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 yes.
None of that
No,
stuff.
but he's all the intelligence and none of the eccentricities. He just talks quiet like this.
Well, he has his own affectations. He's always rubbing his gloved hand. You're like, what is going on with this gloved hand?
But he's not as
sinister.
He's not outwardly weird as Nouveau Vindy is.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely not. You're right.
Yeah,
I agree. Absolutely not.
I'm afraid this was all I could salvage. Consider it a gift. And then he holds up Tech's fractured goggles. That is, by the way, slamming somebody to the ground, and then kicking them in the privates. That's what that is. That he's just rubbing salt in the wound at this point.
Yeah. He's something else, man.
Yeah. And then we have the final twist of the season, the final plot point of the season. For the first time since mid-season 1, Omega is not with her family anymore.
Yeah. Emery is her sister.
Emery is her sister. I mean, well, now I guess she is with her family somewhat, but she's not in the care of Hunter and Wrecker and Echo.
Yeah.
Or Tech. Yeah. And she ends the season captured. Tech dead, Omega captured. Man, the Bad Batch has not had a great few episodes. What happens next? Well, we're gonna have to wait till season 3 comes out next year to figure that one out. But anything else for either of these 3 episodes other than your overall thoughts?
No, I think these are just some incredible episodes, and it left me so excited, so excited for season 3. That last scene with Hunter, Wrecker, and Echo resolving to get Omega back no matter what. Chills. Just chills. Incredible. Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. They're gonna get her back, and I believe them when they say that. I believe them when they say that. I believe them 110%. I loved all three of these episodes. I think probably Plan 99 was my favorite just because of how heartbreaking it is. But yeah, dear God. Yeah, all of them are fucking terrifying. And there's so much grief in them and they've so much heart in them. I gotta say, I had a specific way I thought both of these episodes were going to go, and Jennifer Corbett took those ideas nicely from me and dumped them in the trash. And I could not have been more satisfied in the way she did that. She for these two episodes, she's joined my like the pantheon for me of like the best Star Wars writers. Like she's written some banger episodes before, but like these really just showed off her chops in a way that nothing really before had. Absolutely, I'm so excited to see what she and Brad Rao and the rest of the Batch team have been cooking up for season 3 when it happens. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for our coverage of the Bad Batch. Thank you for listening to this episode of Star Wars in the Galaxy. Thank you for watching Hyperspace. We had a great time doing that. You can follow us at In Galaxy Pod on everything. You can listen to us on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. We will be there if we're not. Email us swinagalaxy@gmail.com. Watch Epic Confrontations on YouTube. Links down below. And in the meantime, may the Force be with you.
Always.
Always.